Okay, everyone, we'll get started. We'll begin just with the introductions, obviously, while a couple more people continue to join. So I'm Jim McGann. I'm on the board of directors for E-Tech. I'm also the interim CEO. I'm joined, obviously, as I normally am, or as we normally are, with Chris Drysdale, who is director of E-Tech. And of course, Chris is in country in Namibia. So great to have Chris with us. And we're going to take you through an update of where we are and what we're looking to do over the next short period of time with E-Tech. Obviously, the slide that we always begin with is our disclaimer. And, you know, we had to take into account exactly where we are. We present you with the information that we have that is best to our best understanding as of today, and bringing you up to date on all of our plans and what our future plans are. But you should obviously take a moment to look through the disclaimer and understand that there are forward-looking statements that we're going to be making, and we're going to give you the best guidance that we can in relation to those, but certainly be aware of the forward-looking component of this. So the agenda for today is basically we're going to do a quick summary of the timeline, which you've seen before. You'll see just a little bit of what extra work that we're doing right now and what we think are the next steps coming forward. We're going to talk about the expanded land holdings, which is a release that you've seen in the recent past, which we consider to be a very substantial move forward for E-Tech. And we're going to talk about how that impacts the investment potential, which we think is a very positive step, as well as what our next steps are as we bring the new property into E-Tech, and what you can expect to see from us over the short period of time. We've had some pretty nice results that you've seen both yesterday and a few days before that. Touch a little bit again on our market coverage and just give you a quick wrap up on our financials. And obviously, if anyone has any questions through this, you can see down below and in your invite where you can submit questions, and we will get to those questions as best that we possibly can throughout the course of the webinar. So just looking at the project timeline today, we won't spend a ton of time on this because most people on the webinar, I think, have had the opportunity to see this previously. Going to focus a little bit more on sort of this past year. So in this past year, what we really did is focus on this map, the map that you see in the center. The orange rectangles in the bottom center of the map, these are our zones 1 through 4. And that is what we had been, that was our initial focus and what we focused on when we began our drilling over the past year and a half. So those results, which were highly encouraging, what they also allowed us to do is to create a pathfinder. And predominantly, as you can see, the 4 areas of pathfinder are the lithology, or how the rocks present themselves and what we're seeing, if you will, on the ground. There's also thorium, which has been a great pathfinder for us because the thorium in very light quantities, but the thorium has been associated with the rare earths that we found, not exclusively, but for the most part, it's been a great pathfinder for us as well. We also look at the magnetic signature, which you can see from the colors in the background of the map, which is what's there. And then, of course, the structures, which we'll see, which have been indicated on the map, which is, again, things that our geological team have mapped really by being on the ground. Those structures are also providing a significant pathfinder for us. So as we released earlier in the season, we had, or earlier this year, we've identified 17 of these targets, which are the ones that are lassoed in white there. You know, it really changes the potential of the opportunity for E-Tech. And really the job that we've been focused on all year is to try to determine just how realistic and what kind of an opportunity do these potential targets have. So, you know, earlier in the year, we did some RC drilling, which is still in progress in the sense that we don't have all of those results back yet. And then we've also been spending a lot of time in the field, boots on the ground, as they say, doing soils, doing mapping, and checking additional structure to try and put more context to each of these 17 targets, and to determine which ones may become drill ready, and which ones may or may not end up being targets for the company. But our focus is really to expand this. We're pleased with the results that we've seen in zones 1 through 4, but I think, as we all know, in the natural resource industry, finding mineralization and finding commercial mineralization is indeed 2 steps. And the more mineralization you have, the more opportunities that you can put together programs and plans that make sense, that can create that. So this is sort of a bigger picture of the area, and it'll give you a sense of the releases that you've likely read recently relating to the to our eTech Dome, as well as a new property that we've recently acquired. And I'd like Chris to sort of take us through this. So Chris, why don't you just play that video and explain the process as we go.
So yeah, so thanks, Jim. So as Jim outlined, you know, our understanding in the project has definitely expanded over the last couple of years, and that's come from the continued exploration and drilling that we've been doing in our original zone deposits. So that led to us expanding our understanding exponentially, but it also led to the recognition that the carbonatite replacement is restricted to a geological feature, which is named the Eureka Dome, which is a Eutistus formation metasediments quartzite. And we then started realizing that our license at the time only had a portion of the dome. Those are original zone deposits. That's our original license. This is the newly acquired license, 8748. And there's the Eureka Dome. So what we realized is our 17 targets that we had initially identified, all within our original license of 6762, were held within this Eureka Dome. And the prospect to acquire 100% more of the dome and increase our footprint was a significant opportunity, and we decided to acquire the license thereafter. From a investment potential, this has, you know, increased our footprint and the opportunity that we have. We started off only with 3,000 odd hectares in our total area, and we only had about 20 square kilometers of dome in our original license. With this newly acquired license, we've now gone up to a license area of just shy of 20,000 hectares, and we cover the entire Eureka Dome, which is 56 square kilometers. So all of a sudden, we have a lot more targets that we can start generating and building, and that gives us a lot more area to work in.
I think it's important for us to also realize that, if you just go back to that for 1 second there, Chris, you know, like this is the natural resource industry from an investment perspective it is a more speculative industry. It does have higher risk in the sense that you can look for mineralization and not find it, or not find it in the way that you want. As well, you know, the opportunity when you're in natural resources for return on investment is quite high. It has a higher risk but a higher return opportunity, which is great. But you cannot diminish the fact that it is still a higher risk investment. What this approach has done, and the reason why we wanted to add the EPL 8748, and the reason why we're doing the work to evaluate each of these 17, is to essentially give us more shots on goal. And when you think about the risk-reward relationship, and all good investors are always thinking about what level of risk do I want to take for what potential return. In this case, we've just identified with our recent findings, and Chris is going to obviously have a quick chat about this as well as we go forward, but we've added a new drill-ready target, which has been factored on by a number of results that we've gotten back. But the approach that we've taken in total to eTech is to give us more opportunities. Adding the 8748, which is about 175% more dome, is potentially going to give us even more targets than the 17 targets that we have. And we're not saying that we're going to have each one of those 17 targets is going to be drill ready, but they certainly, they're certainly showing the beginnings of those signs based on the 4 characteristics we talked about earlier. And as we continue to do more of this groundwork, we're going to determine that hopefully it's not just zones 1 through 4 and our target 9, but hopefully there'll be more targets that will identify themselves as drill ready. And with this large addition to the dome that we now have access to, or will have access to once we get our environmental certificate, gives the company and our investors now more opportunities to hit that to hit our objective and to realize commercial mineralization, so that the return is there. So the risk remains the same, but with more shots on goal, you actually reduce your risk by just giving yourself more opportunities. So from an investment perspective, we think this is turning a nice corner here, and giving our existing investors plus new investors, a more interesting look at this at ETEC.
And from an exploration perspective, we've spoken about the XRF a couple of times, but specifically with the announcement of our prospecting results a week ago, and then the recent soil announcements of our new target 9, our technical team's ability to conduct successful exploration in an area that generally has very limited exposure is definitely a game changer for our company. And we're continually developing new targets throughout the Eureka Dome. And what we've demonstrated with these results that we've been announcing is that this Eureka Dome has the potential to be extremely well endowed with REE mineralization. And us continually finding occurrences with rock grab subcropping samples, as you can see on the left-hand side of the page there, with the same style monazite, simple monazite. We're looking for the same unique selling points that we had in our original Zone 1 deposit, where it's a simple monomineralic deposit with easily to extract a high value product. And now we have continued success in identifying new areas, and we're definitely starting to get attention from some industry leaders, and we're continuing those conversations with various academics as well as seniors in our industry. And these results, as well as some of the work that we've done previously, validates that the potential for the Eureka Dome is immense. And what you see on your page here is you can clearly see there's an outline of the dome that is interpreted from structural as well as satellite imagery. On the backdrop there, you have the government airborne and radiometric survey. So it's a regional survey, extremely broadly spaced, and you can't really tell much from it. We do apply a bit of a filter here to highlight thorium. We use thorium as a target generator because thorium is associated with monazite, and nothing really jumps out at us. And you can see we've left our 17 targets on the page, as well as you can see our original Zone 1 zone deposits there, and they're not screaming. The company then conducted a very high detailed, high definition radiometric survey, and Greg Simmons and his team here really worked with us. They added a 1.5 liter, I stand on the correction, I think it's either a 1 or 1.5 liter crystal. A bigger crystal allows for deeper penetration and radiometric signatures, and we mounted it to a quad mic, and we've got this data there afterwards, and that allowed us, with a bit of filtering as well, to highlight these areas of interest. And it demonstrates this high definition against the regional one, how better or how easier it is to highlight targets and then allow us to go straight to targets. So the value of that obviously is the cost of exploration is expensive. We don't want to be walking around 20,000 hectares like lost chickens. So we are trying to focus down into our exploration.
And Chris, just to go back just for 1 second, I know we've talked about that XRF before, and we've talked about how it plays into our plans and the information we get back. But it's an invaluable tool for us. And the kind of ability it allows us to be able to do things that otherwise we really truly wouldn't be able to do. I think everybody is aware that assay results since COVID have been delayed, and rare earth assays in many ways are often even slower. We still wait on assays and have waited since we began work with ETech longer than we would like to get our wet assays back. When we talk about the soils activity and redefining these 17 targets and trying to determine exactly which ones are the better target, how to prioritize them, which one is a shot on goal and which one is not, the XRF is providing us with immediate, high volume feedback that we would not be able to get without that. And I would suggest that the company, I think all of us in the company feel that we are moving forward at a really interesting pace, and we're really interested at how it's really interesting how the opportunity continues to present itself. But I would say the XRF in particular is a phenomenal tool of being able to drive that feedback back to the geo team and help us define these targets or shots on goal much better.
So just skipping through, and I'm going to add some wording to this, but this is a satellite image. We have our original EPL 6762 there in the black outline. We have the newly acquired EPL 8748 in the purple. And what you can clearly see there is that there is a feature, a clear feature that is outlined as the Eureka dome. This is a geographical feature, and due to the field work that we've been able to conduct, we have got quite a lot of structural information as well as geological mapping information across our portion of the dome, and that's given us a lot of confidence into its role that it plays into hosting carbonatite emplacement and potentially REE mineralization thereafter. The company's dealt with Excel Dynamic. They a Namibian independent consulting firm here that specializes in the natural resource sector, and one of their specialties as well is dealing with the applications to the Ministry of Environment and Tourism for environmental clearance certificate, which is a crucial step for anyone who does exploration in Namibia. So we've worked with them a lot through related companies, and we have a good working relationship with them. And again, I think it shows commitment by the company, ourselves as ETech, that we want to build a sustainable business in Namibia, and work with local consultants who understand the environment and in essence are working in their backyard and move things forward. During this period, while we wait for the ECC application to be considered, we are going to be doing desktop studies on regional and historical information that is available here from the Geological Survey, as well as trying to pinpoint some areas that would allow for further ground truthing and evaluating of potential anomalies. This will be very non-invasive, and it will definitely just be early stage stuff, and we expect that to continue for the next couple of weeks and months thereafter.
Chris, let's, if you don't mind, before we get into looking at the 9th target, we should also go back just to have a little more look at in detail about the structure that is driving some of the opportunities, both near term and as we continue through these 17 targets. We can point out how target 9 relates to the structure, and some of the additional opportunities within the 17 targets that also relate to the structure, which is just one more pathfinder, which is showing us or helping to guide us and prioritize drill targets for the entire project.
Yeah, so what you see on the screen, we've also done high resolution magnetics, a geophysical survey by remote exploration services. And the interpretation from that high resolution ground magnetic survey indicates that there's a presence of a big scale northeast, east-northeast, northwest trending linear structures, faults and shears, some major and minors. And they may act as large conduits and allow for focusing of mineralization. The direct implication of the structures at the moment, we're still working to understand how they are involved in the deposition and actually securing of mineralization. But we are starting to see correlations that targets are associated obviously with high thorium because the thorium is related to the monazite, but they also have some proximity or locality around structural areas of interest. So obviously in black on the screen, you can see the original zone deposits. They are found in an area of structural complexity. And then target 9, which we've recently announced results from, that's also found in an area where there's 2 minor and major structures meeting. So that's the area of interest from a structural point of view. And many of our targets are associated with structural areas of interest. So as we start interpreting along the regional geophysical survey that was done by the government, which is extremely high quality data, considering its definition. I'm sure we'll start seeing a lot of these structures. Geology doesn't stop at a mineral license. Geology continues. So I'm sure we'll extend a lot of this interpretation to go across it. One thing that's also quite nice on this map to highlight is you can see a main road coming through here. Now, the quality of that is, it's not a concern for us at the moment. Majority of our targets are extremely far off the main road, but also it allows us, if anything goes ever into production on this, to have easy access to a main road, and we are 100 odd kilometers away from Walvis deep sea port. So the infrastructure on this project is unbelievable. We literally service it with 2 VW Polos, and running an exploration campaign with 2 VW Polos is a testament to how easy it is to operate here. Just want to move on and talk a bit about the recent results that we announced, the rock grab samples. I think it's firstly, as you can see on the left-hand side, majority of the high-value rock grab samples came from target 9. And we started on target 9 because we could clearly see that there was a high thorium anomaly. Let me get my pointer out. Easily defined, and you can start putting out some resemblance of certain structures. The exploration team did a fantastic job. We've literally mapped this by 20. We've got data points at 20 by 10 meter spacing across this whole target. And through that, we started picking up subcropping, outcrop, subcrop, where we saw visible monazite, and that started returning values. We've had some questions from shareholders saying that the reality is only 7 or 8 of these samples are of high values. Mineralization of above 0.5% TREO is mineralization. It's not economic grade, but it does show that there's mineralization within the system. So all of these, majority of these, I think it's 80 odd % of them, grade above an anomaly, 0.05. The other point on that is our XRF is correlated to wet assays. So we've got almost a direct line correlation to our readings with our XRFs and our wet assays. But the XRF, due to processing techniques, the XRF, and as you can see on our technical disclaimer from our recent announcement, can't read certain heavy rare earths. So those are dropped out, where a wet assay will have those calculations. So generally what you see is our XRF has an underreporting of values, and we're seeing that it sits at around 0.05% TREO underreporting. So areas that are currently reporting on an XRF of 0.05% TREO definitely would be potentially upgraded on wet assays. These rock chip samples were submitted for wet assays, and at the same time, we used it as a validation process for using the XRF as a prospecting tool in the project. And we got direct straight line correlation to our XRF and wet assays. So what that's going to allow us to do is use a quick tool, and we're starting to see it in our soil sampling, conduct a lot of geochemical sampling over areas, and allow us to assess every single target as a full value target, rather than just putting it off only thorium or only lithium. Now we're going to have multiple data layers that comprise a thorium anomaly, a potential geochemistry anomaly, a potential magnetic anomaly, and a lithological area of interest, the correct lithology, a carbonatite, etc. That allows us to go, that is a value target that we would like to test now under surface, and then we want to drill those targets. So our confidence level on these targets is going to be extremely solid going through when we go into drill testing. And we continue to not only validate the 17, but as our understanding about this, about the deposition model that we're currently exploring and expands, we're definitely going to start highlighting new areas of interest.
Absolutely, and I think that particularly with the opportunity of the XRF, we're going to be able to get through these targets and prioritize them, as Chris has indicated, so that we'll have a very interesting priority for targets that, again, are just giving us more shots on goal to be able to find the mineralization that all of our shareholders are hoping that we will. Before we touch on this, I just want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, and I know that we have had some, if you have any questions, please add them at the bottom, and we can get to those at the end. So Numis Financial obviously has started covering ETech, and if anyone hasn't had the opportunity to look at the ETech opportunity and to understand from an analyst perspective and an investment perspective what it holds, you can download the report by either scanning that QR code that's on your screen right now, or obviously you can pick it up from the Numis or the ETech website. So that will be updated as we go forward. Not a big update from a financial perspective. There's been no change in equity since the last time we did our update. Obviously, we are reporting cash as of the end of the year, which we're continuing to go through. However, I will say that the majority of the work that we're doing right now, is not burning as much as if we were in a heavy drill program right now. So we did do drilling earlier in the year, which is yet to be fully reported on. But we're spending most of our time right now on those 17 targets and having those multiple pathfinders, so we can prioritize what ends up being the drill targets, which we would look to after we validate each of these targets. We would look to start a new drill program. So before we move on, I do want to just address one of the questions, which is what is the perceived, or what is the anticipated timeline to receive the ECC Not an easy question to answer. Obviously, the country has the ability to take its time and to review that and make sure that all environmental challenges have been addressed. It's one of the reasons why we partnered with a local firm, who has great connections. Not just within the community, but within the government and industry to help us do that at the best reasonable pace. But it's difficult to say. It could take a couple of months. It could take several months. We're definitely doing all the things that we believe are right to expedite that. But it's not really something that we could we can commit to how long that would take at any particular time.
Is it
over OTC symbol? There's not. So
no.
Yeah,
we dual listed on the TSXV under our ticker REE and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange under K2I.
Yeah.
And also I would encourage all our subscribers and our followers and the people on this to go, if you want any information regarding the technical prospecting and some of the prospecting results, as well as any technical disclosure, to go read our news releases and the company's formal communications. We are very, very proud of the fact that we've developed a way to explore, almost under surface at a cheap way, and we've
cost effective.
That's and it's all the technical situation that goes into that is all disclosed in our announcements and our company's formal communications. We've got a
I'm going to address that last question there, and then we can, if another question comes in, we'll certainly look at that, or we can wrap up afterwards. But I mean, from the perspective of where we are and what our overall goal is, which is really what the question is, I think, and Chris always is on these calls, and really want to thank him for being, as a director, to step up to do that, because he's got such great technical background, and I don't have the same technical background that Chris has. But from an investment perspective, I'd like to talk a little bit about where we are. Like, if you think about it, what we did is we were, in partnership with the founders, we focused on zones 1 through 4, and what was initially identified, we drilled that out fairly well. And if you go back to those news releases that Chris has discussed, you're going to see a lot of intercepts. And, there's going to be intercepts that are range from a meter to several meters. You'll see intercepts that have, small percentages, and intercepts that also have larger percentages of Trello in them. I think from our perspective, we don't really think that it's appropriate to be hung up on the specifics of it. The mineralization is nicely over that area. It's not necessarily in a way that, people will ask us, and they have asked us, what's your intention, and when do you anticipate putting out a new mineral resource estimate? And I would think that we think at this stage we're probably fairly early, but we're fairly early within the context of this opportunity. As we've indicated, we've looked at that outreach, and the outreach right now with these 17 targets, which still need quite a bit of validation on them, but it is strongly suggestive that zones 1 through 4 is potentially just the beginning. It could be the tip of an iceberg. It may not. We're working on trying to find out just exactly what it is. But we've got, what occurred on surface led us to interesting intercepts underground in zones 1 through 4. We have now found a lot more areas that seem fairly similar in what is occurring on surface. We've just added 175% even more areas of surface that we have yet to even identify, is there something on surface yet? But you're taking one target into potentially as many as 18 targets. Don't expect them all to show positive and to be drill ready, but with 17 more opportunities to the target we have, and one of them already coming back drill ready, we feel reasonably confident that there will be great opportunities to add more than just zone or target 9 in terms of those opportunities there. And with the acquisition of the new property, which is even larger than our existing property, we think that that number could be even greater. And just doing the math in your head, you're going to realize that it's not just what's in zones 1 through 4. And why would we measure that? It would take up tremendous resources from the company's perspective just to measure that when we've got what is potentially a quite large number of more opportunities. And each one of those opportunities is going to add to, is this commercially viable? We know through the work that we've done so far that what we have is a simple mineralogy. Or what we certainly are working towards being a simple mineralogy. You know, we don't know what the mineralogy will be like to the north or farther to the south or in some of those targets. We've seen very positive, very encouraging mineralogy within zones 4. So we believe the right thing for the company to do right now is to identify how many of those 17 are good shots on target. And then likely when we get access to our new property, we would, with the ECC, we'll find out, are there even more shots on goal there? When those targets have been prioritized, expect a drill program, and then we would likely be in a position that it would be more reasonable for the company to say, let's begin to measure this up and to determine what the commerciality, the commercial opportunities are. But why would we try to focus on just one small area when we believe the opportunity for larger areas, all in the same property, is quite significant? So that is our overall objective. I would think that yeah, I don't want to speak for Chris and the geological team, but I think that as each day passes, you know, we continue to be more and more encouraged that we're seeing positive things that are moving us towards a much bigger opportunity. You know, in the natural resource business, I would say, you know, it's slightly ironic in the sense that our property is called Eureka, but there's rarely a Eureka moment. In the natural resource industry. What you really have is you have a positive piece of news which adds to another positive piece of news and another one and another one and another one. And that starts with your pathfinders. It starts with your analysis on surface. It then goes into what you find when you drill down below. And we believe that that path is looking very interesting, that we'll have the opportunity to expand the potential of Eureka significantly over the next relatively short period of time, and that's what you're going to see us as a management team focused on. So I don't think that we have any additional questions, but before we wrap up, I would like to say on the screen there you can see the contact at eTech Resources. If you have any questions, if something comes to you later, if you would like to do something, reach out, call either myself, Chris, or certainly send us an email. I tell you for sure, guarantee you, we'll get back to you and address those questions as best we can. As I said, we continue to be more and more encouraged as the days pass with what we're uncovering at eTech, and happy to share those thoughts with you and any direct individual questions you may have. So I think that's it for us. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and look forward to chatting with many of you throughout the next period or at our next update. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.